Hello everyone, welcome to this new Supply Chain Leaders webinar. Today we have the chance to learn from the experience of Fleury Michon, one of the leaders of the French agri-foodstuff sector. Thanks to Stephanie Ricot, Fleury Michon's upstream supply chain manager at the self-service part, who will explain to us how Fleury Michon's supply chain was digitised and became more agile, how it helped to meet the challenges of the group transformation and also the restrictions of the post-COVID world. The presentation will last 30 minutes and will be followed by a 15-minute Q&A session. Please don't hesitate to post your questions throughout the webinar in the Q&A section on the top of your screen. Now I will hand it over to Stephanie to start this presentation. Thank you, Nari, for this introduction. Hello everyone, I am delighted to be with you today. This is how the webinar will be conducted today. At the beginning, I'll present our company, Fleury Michon, specifying the transformations that the company was dealing with during the last few years and also those which are taking place now. Then we'll see which challenges it contains for the supply chain. Afterwards, I will explain to you how we have digitised the forecasting and planning processes using Future Master. And at the end, we'll briefly focus on the recent news, sharing our experience in managing the disruptions we've seen due to the sanitary crisis. To start with, as you can see, Fleury Michon is a French family business, which has been owned by the same family for 5 generations. The adventure started in 1905 with 2 founders, Félix Fleury, who associated with Gustave Michon, his brother-in-law. They developed a delicatessen meat business at the beginning of the century, with products which were sold to wholesalers and delicatessens. The major turning point of the Fleury Michon's activity is the development of self-service in the 1960s to the 1970s. In 1964, Fleury Michon launched its range of self-service deli meat in chain stores. The next important date for us is 1974, when Fleury Michon created fresh ready meals, which were cooked at low temperatures under vacuum and were available in supermarkets from 1974. In 1990, it was the birth of a new market, surimi, a product made from fish and coming from Japanese cuisine. So, these 3 activities are still our main pillars: delicatessen meat, fresh ready meals and surimi. More recent dates, in 2004, we were the first brand to launch a range of organic charcuterie in self-service. In 2015 was the launch of the I Love line. It's a line of charcuterie which is produced from animals fed with GMO-free food and treated without antibiotics. And the most recent launch from the last year that we can mention is the start-up of the line, the Zero Nitrate. This is a charcuterie without preservatives, with natural taste and colour. And then also the launch of the range of cooked dishes in wooden packaging for oven-baked recipes. The wooden packaging allows us to reduce the usage of plastic by 80%. Fleury Michon in figures. The turnover of Fleury Michon in 2019 was almost 748 million euros. There are about 3,800 employees in Fleury Michon. The number of products sold each year is around 375 million. There are 10 production facilities in France and 4 abroad. Fleury Michon in figures. The turnover of Fleury Michon in 2019 was almost 748 million euros. There are about 3,800 employees in Fleury Michon. The number of products sold each year is around 375 million. There are 10 production facilities in France and 4 abroad. Let's come back to France and to the self-service activity, which is a major contributor to our turnover. Here is a quick overview of the products that we commercialise with the brand Fleury Michon. We have our charcuterie range presented by pork ham, poultry fillet, cooking aids like slices of chicken, for example, or diced ham. We also have a roast range and a halal range. For ready meals, we have a very big variety of products. which differ in terms of recipes or in terms of package to be adaptable to different users, whether it's to eat on the go or at home. And then there is the surimi with classic recipes like the surimi sticks. And we also have surimi sticks filled with cheese or scallops to fry. Fleury Michon is a company, as we've already seen, which constantly changes. We have a business project called Helping People to Eat Better Every Day. This project guides us through these transformations. It requires a strong commitment with regards to the supply chain, and the goal of this is always supplying products of high quality. We have already talked about the range of organic charcuterie and the I Love line, but there's more. We can also look at Bleu Blanc Core or Label Rouge lines for charcuterie, and of course Perch Durable line for surimi. We are also working on nutritional aspects of our products. We have signed several charters of nutritional commitments, and we were the first company to put the Nutri-Score label on its products. We can also talk about our partnership with Joël Robuchon, which started in 1987. It has helped us remove many of the additives from our products without affecting the taste. Another sector of transformation for Fleury Michon is its diversification in other markets, such as airborne or hospital catering or meal delivery to companies with our services such as room serveurs and Good Morning. As you will see later, all these transformations have significant influence on the supply chain, and to manage all these difficulties or challenges, it is necessary to integrate the supply chain. Now, let's talk about these challenges. What challenges do we have, and how should we organise ourselves to deal with them? I would like to present to you our operational organisation. I'll navigate the big circle that you see on the screen, but in a contrary direction. Let's start with the little circle number 5. It represents the whole supply chain. It means that the reception, preparation and delivery of orders are included in this part. Some figures for quantifying all this. It's on average 1,600 tonnes, which are delivered per week. This corresponds to 1 million cartons and about 6,500 orders. All these are managed by different logistics services. We can notice among them the customer service, which is responsible for orders, the transport operation, the logistics supervision, who monitors the adequacy between stocks and orders. The fact of the matter is that the specific challenge in our business is the very short delay between the moment when the order is received and the moment when the order is dispatched. In average, it's only 3 hours between these two operations. We understand, combined with the fact that the production of one product may take place between 3 days and 3 weeks, depending on the recipe, that we should work exclusively from the in-house stock. Therefore, it means that the production should start before the order is placed. Additionally, we can't allow ourselves to have very high stock level, because the other specific challenge to our products is their lifespan. It's between 5 and 38 days, depending on the products. And also, the distribution lead time is guaranteed to our customers, which normally is 2/3 of the product's lifetime. Moving on to the next circle, to be able to produce, it's necessary to have previously provided the raw materials. In some cases, these raw materials are stocked, but in others, they're made to order, especially when they should be fresh. We have a procurement team which manages the orders from about 500 suppliers, and then these orders are placed depending on the programme of production, which is established every day by the planners who are based on each production site. Depending on the type of product and the complexity of the process, the programme of production is blocked from 1 to 10 days in advance. So, these are the provisional programmes. As you can imagine, this programme is calculated from sales forecasts, which are provided by a dedicated team. Therefore, in the sales forecast and in planning, we manage about 1,000 SKUs. And to finish with this big circle, you should notice that Future Master Forecast System is receiving a daily update with the sales history from the previous day, which allows us to match this data with forecasts and to make the necessary adjustments in the important cases. Let's now move on to our physical flows. What I can say is that we have one factory in the region of Hauts-de-France, one factory in Brittany, and all other production units are located in the Vendée region, quite close to each other. Concerning our storage and distribution centres, there are two of them. One is located in the Vendée and another one is at Le Mans. With a scheme that's relatively simple, each product is currently only in one centre. The challenges which we have for the supply chain at Fleury Michon, according to the processes that we've already mentioned, it's on the one hand to accompany the development of the activity and the offer. For example, in some sectors we have a requirement for specific ingredients which requires a strong demand signal. Another challenge will be to succeed in launching new products with short use-by dates. It's all about our new products, which have restricted additives or processes, which are going in direction of the reduction of ED. It's clear for us that in these cases the supply chain will need to be very reactive. And then all that should be, of course, without a decline in the quality of our service. To sum up, we can obviously say that the supply chain should be both anticipated from one side and quick to react from another, or in synthesis, just agile. To be precise, this agility involves, among other things, the digitalisation of the supply chain. Here you can see a retrospective of our partnership with FutureMaster, which has now run for more than 20 years. This cooperation has been built step by step to meet the needs and the changes within the company. It started at the end of the 1990s when we were confronted with two problems. On the one hand, the company experienced rapid growth at that time with tools that were not adapted to this growth, and on the other hand, there was a fear that the tools would not pass to the year 2000. In this context, FutureMaster was set up as Fleury Michon, first of all to provide forecasting and also to provide supply planning, but at a simple level. In 2006, we were confronted with a high increase in the number of references and promotions. Therefore, we decided to implement the advanced promotion module of FutureMaster. Next step, which was done, was at the FutureMaster planning level. All our activities were increasing, and most of our industrial tools were saturated by increased demand. So, it was really necessary for us to project our master industrial plan in a much more analytical way. We needed this to confirm objectively the additional industrial investments, but also to avoid useless investments. Therefore, to help us make these choices, we took the decision to put in place a multi-level supply chain optimization model, and we deployed it progressively over all our factories and our activities. The next important period for us was between 2012 and 2015, when we focused on the harmonization of our data with the wish to have a single forecasting for all, required to all actors and horizons. We worked on the implementation of a budget module and then on the S&OP process. In 2018 to 2019, we changed the entity, and in our subsidiary Room Serveurs, we set up the forecast module and DRP of FutureMaster with the idea to harmonise activities as much as possible across the French supermarket customers, but also taking into account these new flows. These new markets and customers, which are different from what we knew when we were limited to operating in the self-service market. And now we have arrived to today, 2020 to 2021. Now we are at the start of a new project with FutureMaster on the supply planning platform side to finally be able to manage multi-platform products. As I was saying earlier, we currently operate with a simple flow, but we are convinced that we should work towards products which are stocked in two different locations, and for this reason we need to improve our tools. Now I would like to present to you our operational processes. When we are talking about operational process in terms of the horizon, starting today and looking out to the week, week 17 or a little more than 4 months. There are 3 main input data which are used for the forecast. First, we have the sales history on which we apply the statistic model with the help of FutureMaster to calculate the trend and the seasonality. We're also working on the cleanup of this history. We integrate the setting of public holidays in the past and in the future. Another very important element which is taken into account is the promotional activities, which could be discount vouchers for some products or commercial advertisements on television. In these cases, we also use FutureMaster to define the best products to include in their promotion. And then, one last point is that we also integrate the weather as input data, obviously on a much shorter horizon, only 2 to 3 weeks, because we don't have an accurate vision beyond, because a lot of our products are weather sensitive. In this case, we integrate a weather multiplier coefficient for the concerned products. So all this gives us a centralised forecast with daily data which can be constantly updated. We calculate this forecast as the first aggregated level for modelling, and then we disaggregate it to a much finer level, which is the SKUs delivered customer level. This forecast is sent twice a day to our planning database. It will be used for 3 main elements. The first and the most important one is the manufacturing programs. The manufacturing programs, we can disaggregate 3 horizons. First, when we look at week 4 to week 8, we have to confirm that the capacity of our factory is sufficient. If not, we should decide to produce certain productions in an alternative factory. At this level, we are taking into account constraints such as plant closures for maintenance work. On a horizon a little closer to week 1 to week 3, the plan should confirm what we have previously validated. When we go down to the production line level, there we will take into account the constraints such as the maintenance of certain production lines, and then we look closer to a horizon which can be accorded to product level with the duration day D+1 to week W+1. There, the program allows us to validate the planning and scheduling at the product level. Then the production program will result in the raw material supply and packaging program. And then we use the provisional production program to carry out resource planning, including the sizings of our teams. This offers us flexibility, since we are able to share resources between our production sites due to their proximity, especially for the sites based in the Vendée region. Now, let's look at the strategic processes. In this case, we are talking about a horizon which starts from week 18 up to the month 18, therefore an 18-month horizon. For strategic forecasting, the input data are the same as before: sales history, promotions and marketing activities. In FutureMaster, we use the same models as for the short-term processes. The main difference is that we add a hypothesis, proposed promotions, proposed product launches, or development of new customers or new markets. And what else can be noticed is that at this level we are in a strong collaboration between departments for providing and quantifying these hypothetical plans. Now, the characteristics. Here we are on a less granular level of detail. We are still at the units at the SKUs level, but this time we stay on the brand level. The data is available in a weekly format and can be transformed into a monthly format if necessary. Then this data is updated monthly. The data is also the background for the construction of the budget process. Every month we have monthly forecast reviews with different departments such as sales, marketing, industrial control management. During these meetings we are comparing the latest forecast vision with the budget vision which is fixed. If there is a significant difference, this allows us to identify it and apply corrective actions if they're needed. Like on the operational horizon, this data is also sent to FutureMaster planning. This includes the various meetings or exchanges between departments. These meetings take place each quarter. We can share the analysis and capacity simulations which have been done to verify whether our production capacity conforms to forecasts. There is also a process with the purchasing department to share their procurement plan. This is a strategic process. To meet the company's need, it's sometimes necessary to build forecasts several months in advance before calling the suppliers, such as in the case of the organic range, for example. The last direction is the forward-looking management of employment and skills due to the resource sharing that we can carry out between our factories. If we want to meet Fleury Michon's future needs, we have to anticipate and then to transmit the needs of the company in terms of skills. We have chosen to show you 4 indicators. The first one is the rate of the forecasting reliability. As you can see on the screen, this rate is usually above 90%. The average one is 92%, which is very satisfying for us. We also follow our service rate and our rate of unsold goods. About the stock level, the average time for a finished product is 3 days. All of this was going well, and then March 2020 came. I think we were all in shock and weren't ready to anticipate, at least in the early days. We had to react very quickly. What were the impacts for the supply chain due to a health crisis? The first thing is that we had a very disrupted demand signal. We had a huge increase on some products, such as the pork ham, for example. Other products have been in strong increase over the first days of the lockdown, and then in decrease, such as the ready meals. We also had a complete shutdown of some of our channels, such as airborne catering, which was completely stopped overnight. We have had to face this. We have also been suffering of some production capacity constraints, such as logistics and restricted lines. Of course, we weren't the only ones in a difficult situation. Our suppliers were too. We've been confronted very quickly with the forecasting difficulties. To sum up, the supply chain was very disturbed and under pressure during that period. What was our reaction? What can we say is that we didn't change our tools. We were using the same tools, but we adapted our processes. We added some input data for the development of the forecast, such as the analysis of the same-day sales. We didn't wait, as we usually do, to have the history of the day before. In some cases, we decided to curb forecasts accordingly to the capacity constraints that we had. Let me explain this. Some days, for example, our logistic platform was saturated. It was useless to send the real-time request to production and put our production lines under pressure, while knowing that even if it was possible to produce the amount needed, we would not be able to deliver it. The most important thing I would say was the team meetings, which we usually have once a month in our strategic process. But it was necessary to organise these meetings 1 or 2 times a week with different departments. Each department was able to bring its vision and its analysis of the situation that allowed us to make a decision together on the forecast orientation for the coming days and weeks. This forecast worked a little bit differently, but using the same tools. It was sent twice a day to our future master planning team. It allowed our production teams to analyse the plans, to make the suggestions for optimisation or simplification of the range to gain in productivity. The purchasing and supply teams worked very hard together to set up the solutions and substitutions where possible. On the HR team side, there was a lot of work to do to encourage team mobility, and thus avoid short-time hires at certain units and to be able to react to the needs of the increased activity at others. To sum up, all these elements could be used as input data for the forecast, like it was done to solve the capacity constraints. That is what I can tell you about how Fleury Michon has adapted to manage, but still manages, because this health crisis isn't over yet. I would like to finish this webinar with feedback on what seems important to us for setting up an agile supply chain. First of all, I would say that it's a long-term investment. It doesn't come just like that in the snap of a finger. it takes time to involve and convince all stakeholders. I've balanced the key factors by mentions. Management support is an essential element for us. You should also have IT tools which are robust and agile at the same time, without being contradictory. And then, in the centre of the triangle, probably the most important element is the human resource, competent and motivated teams. The process must also be animated every day. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll give the word back to Nairi. Thank you, Stephanie, for this very clear presentation. You explained very well why it's so important nowadays for companies in this post-COVID time to set up an agile supply chain. We'll now start the Q&A session. Thank you all for submitting your questions. We're going to try to answer as many of them as possible in the next 15 minutes. The first question, Stephanie, has the implementation of FutureMaster enabled you to improve the accuracy of your forecasts? The implementation of FutureMaster at Fleury Michon was done a long time ago, and yes, it has definitely allowed us to improve our forecast accuracy, because before using FutureMaster forecasts, as I was told, were based on an average of the last 3 weeks. It helped us improve the accuracy very quickly. What is also important is that we were able to reach a 90% forecast accuracy quite fast. Another important thing for us is all the improvements that we have made in working on our forecasts with FutureMaster. They've allowed us to maintain this rate in spite of an increasing complexity and increasing the reference numbers. Super! Another question still related to the accuracy. In the presentation you mentioned the forecast accuracy rate for 2019. How has this reliability changed in 2020 due to the health crisis? Indeed, as I've explained earlier, the demand was very disturbed and the reliability decreased in March to April. It was around 75%, a very dramatic decline if we compare with the rate which we usually had. But it was still correct considering the disturbances we suffered. At the same time, the service rate also decreased, but in a controlled way. We lost around 10 points of the service rate during that period. It was a small amount. I think that we couldn't really have done better. Since June, even if the situation was far from stabilisation, the forecast accuracy and service level both returned to similar figures from 2019. Okay. Do you plan on using machine learning technologies from FutureMaster for your demand planning? If yes, why? We haven't planned on setting up these new technologies yet, but we usually keep an eye out. I think that this is something that we'll probably be using in the coming years, more specifically the weather part. As I've said earlier, we already use a weather coefficient, which was elaborated rather pragmatically and at very aggregated levels. For example, tomorrow, if it's necessary to apply weather coefficients regionally or for a client, we'll probably use machine learning technologies as the ones at FutureMaster are developing. We've even started thinking about the potential use of its algorithms for promotional services, not only to help us forecast the quantity of promotional products, but also if tomorrow we add to the tool some financial notions, such as the turnover or margin concept, it will be possible to propose the optimally profitable for us start again. But also, if tomorrow we add to the tool some financial notions, such as the turnover or margin concept, it will be possible to propose the optimally profitable for us and our customers' promotional plan. Indeed, this is a subject we think about a lot and keep an eye on. Okay, regarding promotions, how do you approach promotions, knowing that hypermarkets don't give a clear vision for more than 3 months? We usually have a vision for some products that can be up to 4 to 6 months, but it's very rare to have figures which are confirmed beyond this horizon, and for all of them we need to integrate these notions into our forecast. It's true that at Fleury Michon we have only made progress in this area fairly recently, but there was also a big job done by the sales teams trying to build the promotional plan on a larger horizon, in other words the tentative plan. We also set up a procedure with the sales team so that they can pass on information to collaborate with us. We can transmit that information into Future Master. Even if it's not exact, it's always better than to make a fundamental renewal of what took place the previous years. Thank you for your answer. Now a series of questions about the health crisis, how COVID strengthened the spirit of the collaboration at the team level. I don't know if the spirit has been reinforced or not, but I think that the team spirit should be present beforehand. In any case, what is certain is that the crisis has really brought it to the forefront. The spirit of collaboration between the teams was and is still an essential factor for passing through and to deal with a health crisis as well as possible. Okay, the COVID crisis, has it reinforced the collaboration with distributors? Yes, it was very enjoyable because during the very difficult period of March, April and May, there was a very sympathetic collaboration with distributors. Everybody had the same goal, to be able to supply the products on the shelves. There were initiatives by almost all of the distributors for accepting distribution lead times slightly delayed, and many efforts were made not to enforce invoice penalties, such as had it been before. Thank you. Then, the next question, what is the major gain that the Future Masters planning tool brought to you facing off the crisis? Actually, I can't even imagine how we could have done if it didn't have this planning tool, because it was allowed us, even because out of the crisis period, to almost instantly see where our bottlenecks are. We were able to set up alternative solutions in order to meet demand as well as possible. We do it directly in the tool, the notifications of bottlenecks, the installation of simulations, and then the selection of a manufacturing model, which will be retained. Okay, last two questions. Has the health crisis made it possible to highlight the value gained by the supply chain team? Yes, that's for sure. There was a spotlight placed on the supply team, but I would also say on the production team. These are two departments where people in general remain rather in the background. It has allowed to finally share operational and daily issues, which the teams usually solve by themselves. That time, it allowed to share these issues with other departments. It was appreciable because it also allowed the different departments to be aware of the issues, which could be daily managed by their teams. For us, it was very enriching to have a different view from the sales or marketing team, because we all have very different approaches and do not deal with issues in the same way. I think it helped us to take a step back and find innovative solutions. All right, well, the last question. What would be the main lessons learned for supply chain from this COVID-19 crisis? The major lesson which I've learned is that the supply chain met a lot of challenges during that period, and the key success factors are at the technical level. We need robust and agile IT tools, and at the team level, teams must be agile and strong at the same time. I would say this is the main lesson and should be nurtured of in the future. Super! Thank you very much, Stephanie. To sum up, robustness and agility are the key words we will remember from this webinar. Another big thank you to all our participants today. We're very interested in having your feedback, so please take a few minutes to fill in the online questionnaire that you will receive. The Supply Chain Leaders webinar program continues, and the next sessions will be announced very soon. Thanks again.